Hi, this is Emma from Centred Within. And anyone watching me across my social media platforms, you may think that I have an obsession with pigeons. And you may be right. Well, why I am so excited and speaking a lot about pigeons, where I sit here, just outside that window, so this is my desk, this is where I work, there were two pigeons putting up a nest. It took them ages to do it, a long time to do it. And I must admit, I did question because I was thinking, the eave wasn't very big, they are big pigeons. And the twigs were looking a little bit, I don't know, but I think, well, how do I know? I'm not a pigeon. One of the pigeons was in the nest, can only assume it was the female, for 5 days solid. And I thought, oh, here we go, this is it. The next day, the weather was really bad. And I do my daily check, look out the window, because I do not want to open the window because it was opposite, it was too close. I didn't want to disturb. I can walk underneath because I have to walk underneath to go to the shops, but I did not want to open that way and startle. And so I do my daily check, which is usually more than once, and there was no nest there. I went into a blind panic. I ran down the stairs, ran outside. The nest was on the floor, but luckily no eggs or anything like that. So, and I was quite upset because I thought, how does the pigeon feel? Or does this happen all the time? And are they so used to it? And then they learn from it because they've got to build it in a better place. And I was telling someone and they said, oh, maybe that's why you never see baby pigeons because they're not very good. And I did a little bit of research. Pigeons only lay eggs once, not once a year. There's only a couple of times, maybe it is once a year. I think between March and July they lay eggs. And it's only one or two. Because what happens is the little squabs, as they're called, stay in the nest until they're almost fully grown. That's why you never see a baby pigeon. Because they're almost fully grown when they leave the nest. They look almost fully grown, but I think if you look closely, you can see they're young. But like, I don't know if you've ever seen a young robin, because they look similar sort of thing, but you can see they're a little bit younger. They look a little bit smaller when you put them up against an adult. So then I was like, oh, what's going to happen? I was really upset, thinking, is the pigeon okay? Pigeon is on nest number 2 outside this window in the bedroom there. It's not my bedroom, it's the guest bedroom. I've got to leave this property in 3 weeks' time, but I'm still in the area, I'll be living about 2 minutes away. So I won't have the bird's eye view that I do have at the moment, but I still will be able to come and check and have a look. But the beautiful thing, and part of the reason why I came on to talk, and it's not all about pigeons, but it is as well, because it's beautiful. I know people have a lot of things to say about pigeons. I think there's a lot of people that live in London or built up areas where there's a lot of pigeon, and I know they do cause a mess and all that sort of stuff. I've lived in areas where there's always pigeons around, but they're still beautiful. I think they're still beautiful. Where I lived before, there was a walkway past a park and people used to leave bird seeds. The birds used to come down, the pigeons used to come down, but the little rats used to come out and have the feed as well. It was just so cute to see the little rats eating the food and the pigeons. And I know they're both called vermin, but anyway, I still think it's beautiful. So yesterday the weather was really bad again. I was like, oh my gosh. But actually where they've got this nest, it's between because there's this cottage and it goes all the way down there, so it's like another outbuilding. It doesn't belong to here, it belongs to the property behind. And then there's another cottage there, and then there's like a walkway, and then there's 2 cottages there. I can only assume it was designed like this to sort of weather the storms and the weather from the moors, because this is in the middle of the moors. So, because it's like almost like a U shape. So the overhanging of the thatched cottage roof on both sides is really significant in the corner, and that's where the pigeon is now. So they've got really good protection from the wind and the rain, because there's so much this morning, but it's okay. But yesterday I could hear there was quite a few children outside because they can see the nest better as well. So hopefully it's all working out all the way around, because it was positioned before, it was really hard to see and no one really saw it. But where they positioned it now, people can really see it, and then children were stopping, and the parents or carers or whoever they were showing them, and it was just beautiful hearing them explain and teaching them about nature, about nesting, about what happens with the egg. And I was just like, it's such a beautiful thing. You can teach children and everyone so much about yourself and the world at large when you look at nature. It doesn't cost a thing. And the children were so excited. They were there for ages. It was torrential rain, but they were having the best time ever. And you could hear the people explaining were so excited as well. And it is excited. I find it very exciting as well. Because it's new, and you can engage in it. Obviously they're not anywhere near it, they're too low down. But it's just a source of information, a wealth of information, and it's just joy and happiness and learning, and these things are always available to us. We don't have to do the complex or the huge or the expensive thing to get something from that. We can learn so much from a pigeon nest, and I've learned loads because I've actually Googled about it. I've learned about pigeons. I've learned about how they nest a little bit. I've learned about me because that's what it does. It teaches you about you. It teaches you who you are as well. What you care about, and that just reflects on how you care about you as well. When I lived with my sister and brother-in-law, I lived also with my nephew and two nieces. They were very young at the time. They're still young now. But at the time when I lived with them, they were ranging, when I first started there, from there were 2, 4 and 6 or 7, maybe 3, 4 and 7. I don't know. They're older now, only by 5 years. But what I love to do, because I felt back then my life had just shattered into a million pieces, and I nearly did myself. I wasn't too sure if I was going to recover, and it was a slow process, but I went through a deep healing process, a very deep healing journey. But what I did love to do, and what I could do, because at the time I had no money at all, there was just nothing, and I thought that was it. But what I could give back, what I could do, and what I used to do is take them on little adventures and show them nature. I remember through lockdown, I used to fill my backpack full of snacks, and there was a park nearby, so I used to take them out. We could go out for our sort of walk. I used to take them up to the park, and there was a wooded area, and there was like a stream that was sort of dried up. Part of it was dried up, so it formed like a bog type, and they would find the longest sticks they could find and see how deep the mud would go down. They had the best time ever, and so did I. All they were doing was poking mud. Sometimes it was the odd foot that used to disappear down into the mud, and they'd come back absolutely covered. I don't think my sister was I had to get undressed at the front door, but we all had the best time. Then we used to poke all that mud. I brought hand wipes with me. Then we used to go and have the snacks on this big log. And even when I left, they still remembered that. I mean, they might not when they're older, but they just loved it. And all it was a stick and mud. And yes, so if there were birds, and they were like, oh, these mushrooms. I would, teach them what I knew, obviously. Teach them about trees and about nature. There was a point I thought I had nothing to give, but I could give so much. I could show them how to explore, how to go on an adventure, how to learn. give them another way of learning, another avenue to look at. And I just think this is something that we forget so much. You don't have to be an expert in the field. I mean, yes, I'm an animal healer, I'm an intuitive healer, but I'm not an expert in animals and nature and things like that. I'm really connected and I feel the energy of them and the messages. But do I know all the ins and outs? No. Do I research it? Yeah. You know, if I feel called to, or because like I've seen someone, not too sure, so I look into it. But it brings in so many things. It brings in a level of respect, a level of compassion. Because I always used to teach them about respecting, where they are, the land and the trees and the plants and like if they're walking through something and you have to be careful because it could have been someone's home, a little animal's home type of thing. Or there was marks, I used to like all the track marks and things like that. What animal was it? There's so much you can give, you can learn, and you can take from something that seems so simple, but it's just amazing. So I can guarantee those children will be back looking at the nest. And it's exciting. You want people to learn how, without even trying, they're going to learn so much. And that's why there's so much available out there. And it's far reaching than you could ever imagine. It never stops. There's always another layer. There's always something else. You can be out and the wind can be so cleansing. It can be sometimes harsh because you can feel it when it's really, really sort of heavy, or it whips you, when the wind whips you. But it can hold you as well, like the sun can hold you, the moon. I can actually hear now the pigeon, what it's doing at the moment, it's still adding to its nest. So it's in the corner there and it flies up and back, up and back. And do you know what? It does that. Because when I first heard it, this was a good month ago, because I sit here and I work here all day. And I was just like, what is that noise? And then I obviously figured out what it was. Some people will be annoyed by that because, it's constant. It doesn't stop. But I love it. Because there's going to be a point where I'm not going to be here to be a part of it. I will from outside and downstairs, but not actually in here where I can really get a great view. So anyone coming here will be able to see it. It's amazing. So if you think that like you have nothing to give, or there's nothing to learn, or how can you expand? How can you broaden? How can you find joy? Go out into nature. Start in nature. And if you don't live in the country, there will still be trees. Maybe you take a trip to a park. The last place before here, I'm in the middle of the moors at the moment in Dartmoor. Before that was a heavy built up area. I still found places to walk. I still found places to look at trees. Even with me walking down past the car park with rats and the pigeons, I loved it. Because they were eating together, having time together, flying, and every time I passed, obviously they all went away. Still nature. It's still there. If you choose to engage, if you choose to be open to see what's available, to learn about you, to learn about everything that's involved in it and then connected to you. It is a beautiful, beautiful thing. It's a supportive, it's a learning tool, and it's so many things. And it might take you on to something else that you wouldn't even consider. Just seeing if there's anything else that needs to come through. No, I think that's it. As always, sending you so much love. Bye.